Hi, my name is Charlie McGrath. I'm the founder of WideAwakeNews.com and a host on the Rinse Radio Network. I'm going to share some statistics with you, information that I've shared before, and I will again, because I believe it's important that we do not forget how we got to where we're at. Millions of people over the last 4.5, 5 years have lost their homes. In a lot of cases, foreclosed on. In a lot of cases, fraudulently foreclosed on. Millions upon millions of us, we the people, have lost our jobs over the last 4.5, 5 years. Official count, 8% unemployment. If we do it without cooking the books, without shrinking the participation rate, we're probably north of 20% unemployment. Our sovereign debt has went from $9 trillion to $16+ trillion with no end in sight in trillion-dollar a year deficit spending, all of course in the name of rescuing our economy. Why am I bringing these numbers up again? Well, because I'm not part of the mainstream media. I'm not part of the 24-hour news cycle. I'm not sponsored by the same financial institutions that decimated this economy. And I don't want we, the people, to forget who brought us to this dance, because I believe it's that important. If we listen to the mainstream, they're corporate owned. 6, 7 companies controlling 90% what you get to hear. They have a vested interest, a bailout vested interest in reporting news that benefits their bottom line. And of course, benefiting their bottom line is by representing the people who can afford to put their names on stadiums, which we lovingly call the too big to fail institutions. They're not going to bring you the truth. Why? Because it would hurt their bottom line. The truth is, their fraudulent failure has been put on to you in one way or another. We cannot forget who brought us here. If we plug into the mainstream, that's exactly what's going to happen. We will wait for this transfer of fraudulent failure for private hands into what is now sovereign debt to blow up and then blame one another rather than the people who brought us here. There is no accountability in Washington, D.C., and there most certainly is no accountability on the people that Washington, D.C. represents, which is financial special interest on Wall Street. Dexia, a European bank, is suing J.P. Morgan Chase right now because they're claiming that they've sold fraudulent, complex securities to the people of the world, knowing full well that these securities were not rated or up to the rating that they had achieved. And in fact, J.P. Morgan Chase themselves did an independent study in 2006 and found that half of their investment mortgages were considered to be defective. That didn't change them from altering or dismissing the findings so they could sell them to the people of the world and keep their bottom lines nice and fat and keep the profits rolling in and keep the bonuses rolling in. In fact, in 2007, 1,154 mortgages were found to be 30 days or more past due. But when the information got all the way down to the lowly investor, that 1,154 was changed to 25. 1,154 down to 25 mortgages that were 30 days or more past due. If you do the math on that, it's about a 98% reduction in truth, or 2% truth, 98% lie. If you tried to pull that same act with the federal government, with the IRS, that's working hard to collect the $2 trillion a year of the people who still do have a job in this country, if you tried to do the same thing with them, what would happen to you? If you made $30,000 a year, and we use this J.P. Morgan investor math, we would go from $30,000 income reported down to $600. Now, would you report this and then found that out to be true? Would you be showered with never-ending bailouts? Would you be showered with more and more honor from Washington, D.C. and more praise for what you've done? Absolutely not. You'd end up in prison. But that's not going to happen with J.P. Morgan. It's not going to happen with Jamie Dimon. In fact, in a meeting with the CFR recently, Jamie Dimon said, and I quote, he did a favor for the government of the United States bailing out Bear Stearns in 2008. He did a favor for you, the taxpayer, by taking on Bear Stearns. Billions upon billions upon billions of dollars in bailout money went to J.P. Morgan, and untold billions after that in zero interest rate loans that they could turn around and park back at the Federal Reserve to make money on your future, period. It's that simple. They can't lose. You cannot win. In fact, J.P. Morgan, Bank of America, Citi, and Wells Fargo are worth $9 trillion, far more than they were in 2007. It's equal to over 50% of the economy. And because of their size alone, because they have so much representation and they're so systemic, they receive a $64 billion a year implicit subsidy that other banks don't get and you certainly do not get. But because they're too big to fail, they have special rules and they can borrow money for less than nothing, it turns out, turn around and park it at the Federal Reserve and get this windfall. They get this implicit subsidy of $64 billion a year. Too big to fail. They're doing God's work. They're doing a favor for the American people. They're not doing you a favor. They're stealing your financial future. They've worked hard over the last 4.5, 5 years to make you forget who brought us here. They're working hard to turn their fraudulent private failure into your public sovereign nightmare that's coming down the road. We must not let our friends, our family, and our loved ones forget. We must not let them forget. And hopefully, on the backside of this apparent, very soon to happen collapse, total financial sovereign debt nightmare collapse that we're going to see globally, we can hold accountable the people who brought us here. Stories are attached. That's all I got.